Greetings, one and all. I'm trusting that you're all well. I'm trusting that you're all safe, and I'm trusting that you are all following your path. And I'm using the word trusting because I was looking up in Beelzebub's Tales, All and Everything, the word trust, which Gurdjieff uses quite a bit. And it's something we have to do. We have to trust ourselves that we're doing the right thing. Again, this comes down to our conscience. Are we following our conscience? And we also have to trust in certain people, certain ways. And since we were little children, we were taught to trust in our parents or our peers. And as we grew older, hopefully we began to see that we couldn't always trust in them. And sometimes we knew that just by the way they were, reacting to situations or their being wasn't quite trustworthy. And we were kind of feeling that because maybe we were already developing ourselves unconsciously, but maybe our subconscious was developing us. And as we're working on ourselves consciously, we have to know who we can trust and who we can't trust, because there's lots of people out there that give misinformation. They drag us in, making us trust them. And then suddenly they throw something at you that isn't quite right. So trust is an interesting word in itself. Why do we need to trust people? Why do we need to learn to trust ourselves? And I think that's because within ourselves, of all our different eyes, there are eyes in us that worry and panic and are not trusting what we're reading and seeing, eyes that come to try and make us deviate from our path. So we have to trust in ourselves in that we are doing the right thing and finding the right people to trust in. Like many of us, I myself have followed people willy-nilly because I thought they were the way, but also because I was so needy to find somebody to help me with my path. And we do need teachers and we need people to show us our way. And as I was just saying, some people deviate from that path quite quickly. But when we're looking for someone, we need to be able to know that we can trust in them. And I found by doing the Gurdjieff work on myself over time, even though I was subconsciously aware when I was younger of people who I could not trust in, and I used to try and say to myself, no, they're all right, wanted to believe in them. And sooner or later, they'd showed me I couldn't. But we need to, by doing the Gurdjieff work, we're setting ourselves up into a more centered, balanced being. And our vibrations are working at a more calmer, harmonious rate. We are then aware of other people's vibrations. We might not understand them properly, but we can tell when someone's vibrations niggle us a bit. And we can tell when someone's vibrations are fully open and welcoming and full of love and such like, and are trusting. It's finding who is trustworthy and who isn't, who is worthy of your trust. Obviously, because I do the Gurdjieff work, I trust in Gurdjieff himself. I trust in what he's putting forward. Okay, it is difficult work at times, but I trust in him that I will somehow make my way through it, whether it's through pondering and working on myself and keep on studying, working with other Gurdjieff people. Though I've met Gurdjieff people that I've realized after a while I couldn't trust, naming no names. But then I have many more Gurdjieff people in the work who are very trusting and that I would hope they would trust me as well. So I was looking up in All and Everything, various quotes about the word trust. And he does kind of give us a warning on page, just bear with me, 1085, about how our leaders of the world try and initiate us into trust in them. The difference between the plutocrats and the theocrats, there is only this, that the first act upon their surroundings for the satisfaction of their Masnonian needs through that function which is called among them trust, and he's got it in inverted trust. while the second act through that function, which is gradually replaced in your favor, it's the sacred function that serves all the free brain beings as one of the three sacred paths for self-perfecting. And this function they call by the name faith. And again, he's got it inverted. And it's interesting how our leaders and such like use trust and faith to pull us into their way of thinking and what it is they're intending to happen to us all. Most people, especially the sheep, have trust in their leaders. We need to have trust in our leaders, but sadly, most of our leaders I would not trust at all. You know, with their own children's lives, let alone my own life. It's difficult to find leaders that we can trust in. And the whole point of trust is that then we can all work together because we feel safe and secure with that person working on whether it's our day-to-day lives or our spiritual development. That's why it's very important to make sure you find a guru. You know, you need to know that you trust in that person. But like I was saying earlier, when you're so hungry for a teacher, you just go along with someone willy-nilly. A learned guru, a learned being, would have trust in their pupil. That's why they've chosen that person to be their, you know, apprentice, their assistant, you know, whatever it is they're going to be, their one that they want to teach, so that they follow on in their footsteps. But there are some people who do that kind of thing who then send them down a more of a darker path because really they're trying to steal their energy to develop their own dark magic. Anyway, but back to Gurdjieff and trust. So he's talking about this, and on chapter 18, Beelzebub's talking about the arch preposterous, and he's saying about when he came to the planet, he had to disguise himself. Obviously, he cut off his horns so nobody saw his horns, and he hid his tail and wore special boots to hide his hooves so nobody knew that he was from another planet. And he says, that you may better represent to yourself the events of this tale of mine, you must first of all know that at the beginning of my exile to that solar system, certain corresponding essent friends of mine who had not taken part in those events from which the causes of my exile had issued, Beelzebub being naughty and thrown out, exiled from the heavens, performed concerning my personality that sacred process which exists in the universe under the name of the sacred Visnush Litzval, that is to say, concerning my personality. There was implanted in the presences of those free brain beings by means of another sacred process called Askal Nuaza, that which objective science defines by the notion trust another like yourself. So Beelzebub was able to develop within himself that vibration so that us humans, the free brain beings, accepted him and trusted him. He didn't really have many problems with humans while I was down there, but probably because he developed this energy vibration within himself. And it's something we should be looking for in our learned beings. It should be a natural process that they've developed so that we feel that we can trust them, that they are trustworthy. And if we're developing ourselves and going forward on the right path, working with the divine source and being part of the harmonious workings of the universe, we will develop that in us because we are doing the right thing. We will be seen as trustworthy. You know, that light shines out of you. It does attract a few weirdos, but then hopefully them weirdos will get something from it that will make them go off and develop themselves and work on themselves. You know, it's something people want to imitate those that they look up to. So he's talking about the trust another like yourself. It's kind of like that. It's not like, but you know, it reminds me of the golden rule of, you know, be kind to others, treat them as you would like to be treated yourself. This is all part of this action of working upon ourselves and working to develop ourselves. And we need to trust in ourselves to be able to do this work. We can do it. You can do it. I can do it. takes effort and we need to put that effort in, but we must trust in ourselves that we will do it. I know many people sit back waiting, trusting that someone's going to come and tell them all and everything, and ta-da, they're going to be sorted. But they might tell you it all, but you still, with that knowledge, you need to develop it. Otherwise, you just have knowledge and no wisdom. You're unbalanced. And with that wisdom comes development. And with that development of wisdom, you start understanding how to work upon yourself and develop the right vibrations that you want to put out to the universe. Anyway, going on with all and everything, let me just remember which page I'm doing. Page, one moment. Page 190. So Beelzebub's again with various people, humans on the planet. This is still Beelzebub's second descent to Earth. So he's been talking to some people in, I can't remember where it was now, but I know he was talking about Soleonensis, which I've done a few shows on, about how the sun is part of our development and has great effects on the planet, blah, blah, blah. Please go and see my Soleonensis program if you want to know more about the sun. Anyway, he's saying, therefore, he also, according to the cosmic law, every cause gives birth to its corresponding result, of course, began to have towards me, still no yek od pana, or as your favorites would say there, a feeling of trust in another like yourself. I'm still working on what these words, breaking down the etymology of them, might be. And obviously, Gurdjieff's using a lot of different languages. He knew a lot of languages and a lot of ancient languages, and he was putting together words so that they would have just one specific meaning. So that when you read that word, you knew what that word meant. Where we nowadays, we have so many meanings to one word. It's crazy. Like I often use the example of cancel. You can cancel somebody, speaking to them, giving them advice, blah, blah, blah. Or you can have a council of people that run everything. Kind of the same, but not. But anyway, I'm sure you've done many crosswords where you find that there could be different words for the same, or different meanings for the same word. But as he's saying here, a feeling of trust in another like yourself, that's something that's really important in development of finding people to work with, and also finding people just to, in your day-to-day lives. When you know that you can't trust somebody like yourself, it's somebody, you don't push them away, you don't get rid of them, you still work with them in whatever capacity you're with them in, but you're just aware that they're not somebody you can trust like yourself. It's difficult about people, especially in this last few years, how many people have suddenly become aware that there's a them and us, where before the last shit show of the last few years, I always knew I was a bit different, an outsider. I've discussed this with a few people. And everyone just thought you're a bit weird or whatever. Or I think maybe it niggled on their subconscious that they should be doing that kind of work. And because their conscious didn't want to do it and they wanted to carry on being a sheep, they would be a little bit distant or, still friendly. And we still need to walk amongst the people. As Gurdjieff says, this isn't a path where you go off to a monastery and lock yourself away forever. It's good to go and do now and then, go on little retreats. I did one myself a few months ago. It was lovely. But it's to help us live and breathe in this lunatic asylum that's going on in this world that we live in. And to make our lives easier in this world that we live in, we need to know who we can trust and who we can't trust. And as I was saying, develop a trust in ourselves. We have so many doubts of ourselves. We have part of us that keeps wanting to niggle at us and tell us that we're not good enough, we're not worthy. We are worthy because we are. We're doing this. Everybody's worthy of doing this kind of path, but it's how much effort they put into it and whether they want to, and whether they could be bothered, really. And then I've got one more quote from All and Everything. Let me just try and find where it was. Again, talking about trust. But he's talking about developing objective reason within oneself. In former times, there on the planet Earth, this word was always used in one sense only. He's talking about being an initiate. And a legomenism, which is the legomenism is given to one of the means existing there of transmitting from generation to generation information about certain events of long past ages through just those free-brained beings who are thought to be worthy and who are called initiates. And we're all initiates. If you're watching this show, I'm sure you're an initiate because you're trying to do this work. So we're all being initiates into this kind of thing. And he's saying about how, you know, all this was devised by the beings of the continent Atlantis. And there's a great Atlantis awakening going on in the last 100 years, and it's been getting more and more in the public eye lately. You know, many people think Atlantis is about to be discovered. Maybe it is, but I'm pretty sure that many of people that did live on Atlantis have been reincarnated and have been coming back in the last 100 years. And I would advise people to check out Edgar Cayce's work on that. For your better understanding of the said means of transmitting information to beings of succeeding generations by means of a legomenism, I must here explain to you a little about those beings there whom other beings called and call initiates. And when you come forth before a legomenism, your whole being is attracted to it. Your whole being knows it's trying to tell you something. I'm very lucky. I get to go to the British Museum quite a lot, and there's one of the statues that's known as a Lohan in there, and I can go and sit in front of that and look at that, and he's a legomenism. You know, I can rest my eyes upon him and try and drink in whatever information he's trying to give to me, if I'm worthy, which I am. In former times there on the planet Earth, this word was always used in one sense only. And the free-brain beings there who were called initiates were those who had acquired in their presences almost equal objective data which could be sensed by other beings, which is what I was saying earlier. People sense when you're doing this kind of work. They might not understand what it is they sense, but they know you're different. And it also attracts, because you're making that magnetic center within you, so you're hopefully attracting like-minded people to you. Though it can be quite difficult because sometimes like-minded people like us hibernate away from everyone. But then maybe we're all meeting online. But during the last 2 centuries, this word has come to be used there now in 2 senses. In one sense, it is used for the same purpose as before. That is to say, those beings there are so named who become initiates thanks to their personal conscious labors and intentional sufferings, and thereby, as I've already told you, they acquire in themselves objective merits which can be sensed by other beings, irrespective of brain system, and which also evoke in others trust and respect. Sorry, my phone's pinging, I forgot to turn it off. In the other sense, those beings call each other by this name who belong to those what are called their criminal gangs, which in the said period have greatly multiplied there, and whose members have as their chief aim to steal from those around them only essence values. And this is what I mean about there's various gurus and teachers out there that are out to steal essence values. You might still learn something from them, but when they start getting a bit dirty and going down a left-hand path, get out. Under the pretense of following supernatural or mystic sciences, these criminal gangs there are really occupied and very successfully with this kind of plunder. And so any and every genuine member of such a gang there is called an initiate. There are even great initiates among these terrestrial initiates, and these great initiates, especially at the present time, are made out of those ordinary initiates of new formation, who in their virtuoso affairs pass, as is said there, through fire, water, copper pipes, and even through all the roulette halls of Monte Carlo. Well then, my boy, legomenism is the name given to the successive transmission of information about long past events which have occurred on the planet Earth from initiates to initiates of the first kind, that is, from really meritorious beings who have themselves received their information from similar meritorious beings. And we need to be aware of who it is we're getting our information from. This is why I always say to people, go back to the books, read the books, trust in Gurdjieff and his writings. That's the way we need to go forward in this kind of work. And if you can find others to discuss it with, even better. And hopefully you'll find trustworthy individuals. But trust is the name of the game. So I trust you all enjoyed this show, and hope that you trust in me when I'm putting forward this information. As I say, that's why I stick to the quotes, I stick to the books, and I don't do anything that's really my own thoughts and feelings. It's always down to Gurdjieff. Thank you for watching and listening.